I've been doing a lot of thinking and soul searching through this whole situation, and I actually started to realize how absolutely ridiculous this entire situation has become. The situation I'm referring to, of course, is Anita Sarkeesian, radical feminism, and gaming. But it goes farther than that. I realize that this very discussion on some levels is absolutely counterproductive. And I'll get to why. But let me finish off with what I need to say, what needs to be said about Miss Anita Sarkeesian here at this point. She is a distraction. I don't know why I didn't see this before, but the more videos I see that are not necessarily having an actual furthering of the conversation, but are instead having to stop the entire conversation to basically address the factual inaccuracies of Miss Anita's presentation. And you get the idea that nobody is actually having the conversation, though some are having it on some levels. Dangerous Analysis, link down to his and many other videos as proof of my concept here, is down in the underbar. He does speak of things that we haven't been really talking about. The fact that a great majority of video games are actually genderless. You know, as well as especially when, if we're going to talk classics, we're not going to talk things like Donkey Kong, we're not going to, not Donkey Kong, we're not going to talk things like Asteroid, Centipede, Space Invaders, and many other games that have absolutely no gender. I would even dare to venture to say that Berserk, outside of its box art, is rather genderless because you've just got a humanoid form. Oftentimes in a lot of these games you are referred to as the humanoid, like Robotron 2049 or something of that nature, if I remember the title correctly, where it has that little voice that I love about that's like, get the humanoid. It's not like, get the guy, you know. And actually, if I remember correctly, in Robotron 2049, you're saving men and women. And the fact of the matter is, you just happen to be armed, they don't happen to be armed, and they're fighting against robots. I'm sorry, gender equality is not going to win out against robots. But I digress. And no, I'm not saying that women somehow can't fight back against robots. I'm just saying, trying to say, well, these people should be able to fight their way out against the... No! No! But the point is, we're not having the talk. We're having to stop to correct Miss Sarkeesian's assumptions with facts and figures, and this has stopped us dead in our tracks. Meaning that she has been, and always will be at this point in time, unless she's willing to actually have a factual basis for the talk with which she is trying to have, that open and honest talk about the gaming industry. Instead of us moving the talk forward, 90% of us are stop having to clean up the mess that she created. Not because she's a woman, not because she's a feminist, or rather a radical feminist, and even then that title makes no sense because, again, as stipulated on her own blog, she feels alienated by feminism. So why do you call yourself the feminist frequency? That's disingenuous at the very, very least. But the point is, she's an obstruction. She's a roadblock. And she's created herself as such. Maybe not on a conscious level necessarily, or maybe that wasn't her goal, but that is what she has become. She should be ignored. I know people are angry about her influence, and heck, I've lost some friends, although I would say they were friends, over speaking factually against Miss Anita's position because, at least in terms of what she presented, she was incorrect. And there is no wiggle room there. There is no gray area there. She was incorrect. But that's the problem, is most of us are upset, not because she dared to speak up against the sexist industry that's out there, but because she's doing it in, not because she's a woman, not because she's a feminist, or something along those lines, even if she doesn't like the title. Her video created more questions than it actually answered, and you could say, yes, but it's a part 1, but that shouldn't be an excuse. I may still give her second video a chance, but I'm not likely to make a response video to her talking points, because this doesn't get us anywhere. We should be better than this. We should know better than this, but we're not, because we're falling for it. Not that I'm trying to say that she's a scam artist necessarily. I'm just simply saying that her ideals as presented thus far, even in her regular series, Feminist Frequency, don't hold water. She's not willing to debate. Therefore, in a way, there can be no real movement of the conversation should one actually be needed. But here's the other problem, the problem that people aren't even acknowledging, and it is its own elephant unto itself in the room. Is the gaming industry sexist? On some levels, absolutely. You can't say no, because there are companies that do things like they hire women for male morale. They pass them over for promotions. But that's more the business side of things. But are there some games that are created specifically just to be like, hey, look at these women. They think they can be like us. How funny. How droll. And yeah, those kind of need to be addressed. If you're being sexist for the sake of being sexist, that's not art. That's not artistic vision. That's not artistic integrity, and so on and so forth. But in terms of the industry and the product as a whole, is it sexist? Well, that depends on your definition of sexism. See, here's the problem that I'm finding, and it's the same problem I have with the conversation and the topic of rape, whether it's rape against men or rape against women, is we may have legal definitions, we may have legal constructs, we have no social constructs or no social definitions. And this is where we are working from, is the realm of social definitions. Because to some, let's take rape for a moment here. For some, porn is institutionalized rape. Now, it's not actually rape, but there are people who are campaigning against it because they feel that it is video rape, and that these women are being raped on camera, and we're paying for it, and we're allowing it, and I could go on, but it gets into conspiratorial theory territory after that. To some women, porn is sexist. To some women, sex work, even if you choose it, is sexist and degrading towards women. But is it? To some women, dressing up in cosplay and being a little too revealing is being sexist, and in many ways, then you are now a slut in the eyes of some of these holier-than-thou ladies out there, who then will go on to say that if you get raped, you deserved it, because why dress like a hoe if you weren't asking for it in the first place? So in a way, this is a self-defeating topic, because we do not even have a concrete definition of sexism with which to work from. I stand by what I've said in my last video on this topic in terms of the fact that we need the industry, should the industry move forward? Okay, let's go from just that standpoint. Could the industry stand to grow up a little? Yes, absolutely. And I would love, nay, I would buy games that were more progressive, as long as also we take the good with the bad. Because as talked about, If a woman likes video games on the same level as a man, for the same reason as a man, then you have, again, to further my point here, you have women who will just say, oh, well, you're just a chauvinistic woman. Even though you're a woman and you have your own tastes and your own loves and your own whatever, you've been indoctrinated, you poor, poor naive thing. Therefore, your voice, even as a woman, does not count. If that's not proof of goalpost moving, I do not know what would be in this topic here. The point being, though, at the end of the day, if men and women both enjoy the bad, but could also very much potentially enjoy the good, and the industry should be trying to promote the good as well. But don't throw out the past stuff, because some of this stuff is sexist, objectively, but most of it is subjectively sexist. Some games are sexist, but by whom's standards? And whom gets to decide? Whom gets that kind of power? I say no whom should get that power. I think part of the industry should operate as it's always operated, because I don't see the problem necessarily. And a lot of women agree with me on this. Not that I'm saying I feel emboldened by that fact. It's just, if I was the odd person out on this, then maybe I would need to re-examine what my thinking and thought processes are. But in this case, no. I'm finding more agreement from women about the industry and how it operates kind of as is now than I am those who oppose it and think that, oh my gosh, this is reinforcing and helping to rewire the young male brain to think that it's acceptable to treat women as an object, which in and of itself is an extremely subjective term, but also at the same time, there's that biological issue there that some of us wouldn't be here if our parents hadn't objectified each other. But I digress. So at the end of the day, I am saying, yes, the industry should be moving in more progressive circles, but not completely destroy or dismantle the way that it's been doing things now. But in terms of the overall topic, is the game industry sexist? Well, by whose definition? What are your parameters? What are your reasonings here? And if we as a social circle, as a social bubble, cannot agree on one specific term, then we cannot do anything to improve the industry. And I still talk about the Tomb Raider reboot, where you have a woman who gets herself out of captivity, and many other checklists that Anita herself have talked about, and they're still not happy about this game. And you cannot win with some of these people. In which case, I have only one thing to say to you. Grow up or get out of the way. Because if the industry is to grow in any meaningful term, you are not helping. You are basically just building a bonfire for the sake of bonfires instead of actually trying to put out the fires around the industry and trying to fix things. I'm sorry, but your offense to things does not have weight here, because you're not wanting to work towards meaningful changes. You only care about what you care about and forget what other women want, because it's all about you, isn't it? And that's all that needs to be said about this topic. This, Anita, and most of this needs to just go away. The rest of it, though, as far as making the industry, holding it to maybe slightly higher standards on some levels, does need to happen. I have never said otherwise, and I'm certainly for gender equality and equal representation. But we need to have definitions here, or this is not going to work, and nothing is going to get done. Period.